a long season, guys. That's it, TT. You good. Your kindness. We're grateful for all the hard work. I'll always fight for you guys. Always. That's it. You get that message. It's the one time you don't reply.
You got it, yeah, we were talking. Thank you very much. It was awesome working with you. And grazie mille.
Lewis Hamilton just dropped a bombshell. Right after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, his radio message left the entire Ferrari garage speechless. What did he say? It wasn't just frustration, it sounded like a final warning. Or worse, the farewell. This changes everything. Ferrari's 2026 project is now under massive pressure, and Hamilton's loyalty? Hanging by a thread. If you want the full story behind Hamilton's explosive message and what it means for next season, subscribe now, because this is just the beginning. The moment Hamilton's radio cut off, Ferrari's pit wall was stone silent. The engineers glanced at each other, not out of surprise, but out of discomfort. The message was calm, almost too calm, and that's exactly what made it so unsettling. For a driver known for fire and emotional candor, this tone was different. Hamilton wasn't lashing out, he was signaling a deep fracture in confidence, and everyone in red knew it. Back in the garage, Riccardo Adami quietly stepped away from the console. The same man who had guided Vettel through his final years at Ferrari now found himself in the middle of another star driver's disillusionment. According to internal sources, the debrief was unusually brief. Hamilton arrived, helmet off but still in race gear, listened to the technical summary, gave a few nods, and left without saying much more. No heated exchange. Just quiet discontent, the kind that doesn't explode but corrodes from within. Ferrari's technical team, led by Enrico Cardile and Diego Tondi, were already preparing a review of the Abu Dhabi floor and rear suspension data. They knew the issue wasn't new. For weeks, Hamilton had been reporting instability, under traction, and inconsistent braking feel. Every simulator session confirmed it. Yet at every race, they came up short trying to give him a platform that suited his needs. This time, though, they couldn't blame the setup window. The floor damage was minimal. There were no glaring tire degradation issues. The car was simply not good enough. What made matters worse was Charles Leclerc's performance. His P4 result on identical hardware underscored a truth Ferrari hadn't wanted to face. Their car wasn't broken, it just didn't work for Hamilton. The setup philosophy that allowed Leclerc to attack corners didn't translate to Hamilton's style. And that wasn't just a problem of preference, it was a fundamental development mismatch. Hamilton had signed with Ferrari believing the SF25 would evolve around him. In reality, it had stayed loyal to the feedback of the driver who never left. The British press exploded within minutes of the checkered flag. Headlines ranged from Hamilton betrayed by Ferrari to Lewis set to walk. Speculation intensified when Hamilton skipped the press pen entirely, citing physical fatigue, something extremely rare in his career. Fans began dissecting every word of his radio. Was it a coded threat? Was he asking for reassurance? Or was this the beginning of another political saga, a repeat of 2021's psychological warfare? Now, inside the very team he hoped would deliver redemption? Inside the paddock, rival teams were already watching closely. Red Bull didn't miss a beat. Christian Horner made a pointed comment about certain drivers needing to be listened to, while Toto Wolff, now fully focused on Mercedes' 2026 project, reportedly sent a text of support to his former driver. The message was clear. If Hamilton was frustrated, the rest of the grid would be happy to exploit it, even if just to destabilize Ferrari's 2026 ambitions. Meanwhile, Frederic Vasseur faced a moment of truth. He had built this team around unity, around promise, around the narrative that Lewis Hamilton would be the final piece of a championship puzzle. But as the garage lights dimmed in Abu Dhabi and Hamilton's words echoed through the walls, it became clear. The puzzle was missing more than just one piece. It was missing trust. Strategically, Ferrari's Abu Dhabi race weekend exposed far more than just setup flaws. It highlighted a foundational disconnect in how race operations are handled between the pit wall and Hamilton's feedback. Throughout the Grand Prix, Hamilton's strategy was reactive, not proactive. While Leclerc was able to commit to an aggressive two-stop plan that exploited clean air and undercut windows, Hamilton's race evolved on the fly, constantly adjusting due to traffic and tire life that degraded quicker than simulations had projected. One critical moment came around lap 26 when Hamilton questioned the team's tire choice over the radio. He had started on the hard compound, expecting a long first stint, but within 15 laps, he reported severe rear sliding. Ferrari stuck to their model, insisting the degradation would plateau, but never did. Hamilton was forced to pit early, rejoining in traffic, while rivals like Norris and Alonso gained massive time on the overcut. It wasn't just a misjudgment, it was an operational gap that Hamilton flagged repeatedly. From the outside, the numbers were damning. Ferrari lost nearly 18 seconds of net race time on Hamilton's side of the garage due to suboptimal pit windows and traffic mismanagement. Every stint felt like damage limitation. Hamilton's final position in P8 wasn't a reflection of raw pace, it was the result of a misaligned race strategy, poor communication, and a car that never gave him the performance window he needed. For a team expected to be fighting for podiums, this wasn't a stumble. It was a collapse. Back in the garage, Ferrari's post-race review was under heavy scrutiny. Trackside engineers noted that Hamilton's telemetry showed he was driving closer to the edge than any other Ferrari driver had all year, carrying more mid-corner speed, braking later, using more curb. He was compensating for a lack of stability by pushing beyond the setup's comfort zone. While it showed Hamilton's resilience, it also proved that the car's balance didn't belong on a top-tier grid. The SF25 simply wasn't designed to match Hamilton's driving DNA. Meanwhile, Hamilton's frustration wasn't limited to engineering. Strategically, he was questioning Ferrari's decision-making under pressure. In closed-door meetings, he reportedly asked why his strategic simulations hadn't accounted for DRS train scenarios or safety car probabilities that were obvious on a high-risk track like Yas Marina. Ferrari's response was vague. They cited model reliability and operational constraints. But to Hamilton, it sounded like excuses. At Mercedes, these same scenarios would have been gamed out multiple times. Their strategy was a weapon at Ferrari, it had become a liability. And Hamilton, with over 2 decades of race experience, knew the difference. Sources close to the team claimed he was unusually silent in post-race meetings, offering minimal input, signaling perhaps a shift from engagement to evaluation. Was he still trying to help Ferrari improve, or was he now observing whether they were worth the emotional and technical investment for 2026? The bigger strategic question now looms over Ferrari's future. How do you balance 2 drivers with completely opposite car philosophies when one of them is Lewis Hamilton? The team was built on hope that Leclerc and Hamilton could drive development together, hope that a unified Ferrari could challenge Red Bull. But as strategy falters, setups diverge, and results disappoint, that hope is being tested and Hamilton's patience, it seems, is wearing thin. The heart of Hamilton's discontent in Abu Dhabi was not just strategic, it was mechanical. Ferrari's engineers arrived at Yas Marina with subtle updates to the rear floor and diffuser, aimed at stabilizing rear-end performance under traction. On paper, the updates were minor, but in reality, they had unpredictable side effects. In Hamilton's case, those side effects triggered instability under braking and mid-corner traction loss, which destroyed confidence through Sector 2. This wasn't just balance, it was a structural mismatch between driver input and aerodynamic behavior. Telemetry from the weekend revealed a troubling pattern. Hamilton's throttle traces showed delayed application out of corners compared to Leclerc. Where Charles could commit earlier, Hamilton was feathering the throttle, fighting the rear stepping out. This caused tenths on every exit tenths that added up across a lap. Engineers suspected a poor aero-to-mechanical balance specific to Hamilton's setup. While Leclerc preferred a looser rear with sharper turn-in, Hamilton required a car that rotated more progressively. The SF25 was simply not delivering that adaptability. Ferrari's biggest headache, however, came from the car's rake sensitivity. The team had developed the SF25 with a low rake philosophy, seeking greater straight-line efficiency, especially critical in long DRS zones like Abu Dhabi. But that low rake compromised high-speed stability, particularly when Hamilton pushed the rear suspension under heavy braking. With wind direction shifting slightly in FP3 and Q1, the car became even more unpredictable. Hamilton lost confidence, braking earlier into Turn 9 and Turn 11 corners where he usually thrives. That loss was reflected in lap time and radio frustration. Another concerning detail was the tire temperature delta between Hamilton and Leclerc. Ferrari's post-race analysis showed that Hamilton's rear tires consistently ran hotter by 5 to 7 degrees Celsius during race stints. This contributed to early degradation and sliding. Attempts to rebalance via front-wing adjustments and differential settings failed. The car's platform was just not holding steady for Hamilton. And in Formula One, when a driver begins managing tires instead of racing, competitiveness is out the window. Behind the scenes, Ferrari engineers debated whether the issue was setup-driven or structural. Could it be that the new suspension components introduced earlier in the triple header had compromised Hamilton's ability to control weight transfer? Or was it simply a case of limited correlation between Maranello's simulator and real-world conditions? Whatever the case, the frustration wasn't mutual. Leclerc's side of the garage was relatively satisfied. For them, the car was behaving as expected. But this divergence created an even deeper engineering dilemma. Two cars, same chassis, different realities. Hamilton's post-race feedback was direct. He told his race engineer and the technical team that the rear-end behavior reminded him of Mercedes' troubled 2022 campaign, a car that simply wouldn't rotate under him. That comparison hit hard. Ferrari had invested heavily in 2025's development to avoid the mistakes of the porpoising era. Yet now their prize signing was drawing parallels to the worst aero concept in recent memory. And he wasn't exaggerating. In multiple slow-motion replays, the SF-25 looked visibly unstable over curbs and during direction changes, traits Hamilton has always struggled with. The engineering team now faces a crossroads. They can no longer treat Hamilton's setup as a variation on Leclerc's. They must develop divergent philosophies if they want both drivers to extract performance. That means tailored aero maps, unique suspension geometry, and new correlation protocols, all while under the pressure of a championship-winning expectation. Ferrari has the tools. What they need is clarity. And if they fail to find it soon, they risk not only losing races, but losing the very driver they brought in to win them.